So I think I've been, we didn't get there on monitoring APM. And I think one of the failings was that we weren't on by default. But what's clearer and clearer to me, or what I suspect more and more, is that the usability, the out-of-the-box usability of Datadog is really, really great. Like, it just has default connectors for everything. Now they even build a connector for GitLab. Like, we will not take that as an insult, but it's like, we're trying to disrupt them. They're adding support for like getting the metrics in from GitLab.
Yeah.
So they've built all of these connectors. So that's great.
One thing that Datadog was really smart at is they leveraged StatsD from the get-go. And StatsD was a really popular thing that had already a huge community contributing to it. And then they piggybacked off that and say, they twisted it slightly. It's like, now it's like dog StatsD or whatever they call it. But at the end of the day, it's like they get the benefit of this huge community providing software for exporters. And that meant like they start the race running. Whereas you take a New Relic, everything they do, it has to be proprietary and built by themselves. That meant engineering costs, maintenance costs, and all of that stuff. So like how Datadog got the instrumentation like on by default was really, really smart.
Yeah. And I'll tell you the plan. The plan is to fork the Datadog agents so that we have the same very capable agents that send a lot of great metrics by default.
So here's another thing that's happening in the industry. So Datadog donated their agents to OpenTelemetry. So the OpenTelemetry agents are actually based at least partially on the existing Datadog agents. So I would say, like, as far as like having access to a large library of agents or tracers or exporters, OpenTelemetry still feels like the best bet to me.
Okay.
But even Datadog themselves, I imagine at some point they will gradually kind of just say, hey, yeah, use our existing Datadog agents or use OpenTelemetry. Doesn't matter, because I don't think that's where the game is played today. But anyway.
Okay, so it's not about the agents, it's about the experience in the application.
Yes, it's much more about today when it comes to observability and monitoring in general, like it's about separating signal from noise. It's about how smart your platform is. So you'll see like vendors, a lot of them investing and buying companies that say AI anything. I saw it with New Relic. They made several acquisitions there. Because at the end of the day, it's like data there's a lot of data. It's what you make of that data and how you make that experience as out of the box and automatic and less manual that makes the platform particularly useful. I was just reading an article on Kubernetes.
I agree that the vendors are all making investments there. I think if I look at the success of Datadog, it's not because they had better AI or ML. It is because it was easier to set up. Like, it was just quicker. Like, they have like, I don't know, templates, or they automatically recognize hundreds of applications and setups. And it was easy to go from a graph, select a time frame there, and go to the logs and traces that are part of that.
That could be. So Datadog also has an inherent advantage on where they started. This is strictly my opinion here. So they started with infrastructure monitoring. So they have like several different classes of agents. So to monitor your infrastructure, you need something like pretty close to the machines that's running. So they had, I forget all the names, but they have a Datadog agent that's written in Go that runs on all the hosts for their customer. And for application monitoring, and they're adding things like network monitoring and all other kinds of things. These are additional software that sits on top, and they talk to the foundational Datadog agent. So that Datadog agent is something that other vendors don't necessarily have, because at the core, Datadog is starting, most people buy them to start to monitor their infrastructure. So like application, network, everything else is kind of a bonus. And they use that same architecture where the application tracers, I think they call them, talks to the Datadog agent. And the Datadog agent is then the thing that's responsible for talking to the ultimate cloud storage and everything else.
Yeah. And I think we always underestimate how fast things move, because we live on the forefront. We see a lot of Prometheus and everything else. Today, the Datadog agents are by far the best ones. And the whole rest of the industry, everyone sees where this is going. So all the other companies are like, oh, we're going to build like Prometheus clients and hotel collectors and stuff like that. What if we just, the Datadog agents, as far as I know, are Apache too.
Mm-hmm. They're open source.
They're open source. We can just use them. And build on that. And yes, it's not glorious. And yes, at some point, we're all going to go to open telemetry. I agree. So is Datadog. So they'll change the agents over time to get more compatible, and we can just benefit from that effort without any extra work. And then another problem was like, it didn't, 90% of our usage is on self-managed, and it didn't work out of the box. Like, people didn't install the things. Datadog, people seem comfortable with like having a third party run it. Great, we'll do the same thing. We'll only offer this as a SaaS service that we managed, because it would be a way for us to get a connection with all those self-managed instances. As they start using monitoring, now we are in touch with them and they have an account and everything else.
Yeah, I totally agree with that approach, because I think, so actually I scheduled a meeting with you 2 weeks or Friday next week, and there's a deck, which I'll link here. I wrote a lot of these ideas down, which I'll share with you when you get a time. Please take a read. I totally agree that people at the end of the day don't want to manage Prometheus. They don't want to manage the infrastructure and the software associated with, basically at the end of the day, it's a time series database that perpetually scales. Like, if we can, I think that part, everyone wants a SaaS solution. Nobody wants to manage that. One of the trends that I am particularly excited by that's happening is shifting monitoring left. Monitoring your production environments is always going to be a need. That won't change, and we can certainly like do exactly as you described, have a SaaS offering, use everything that's popular, Datadog agents, to make setting up, getting things working really quickly, easy. What I think GitLab is particularly well suited for is, since we already own Plan, we already own your code in SCM, and we have CI, like giving early signal on how well your things are working for the developer, I think it's an area that we can really hone in on. And the pattern that I like is you get a snapshot of what your production environment looks like. And then you run your same agents, same tracers. When you're testing, this presents a view of how development environments looks like relative to what production environment looks like. I mean, it's almost like testing. It's like testing, but using monitoring techniques. I think that plays really well with GitLab, and the advantage of that is we don't need to have massive amounts of storage and processing to facilitate this earlier use case. So I think it's more iterative. It's like if we're actually successful at being a monitoring vendor, like the scale we need to operate our infrastructure at, it like goes.
We can solve that because people will pay for it, and it's a great market to be in. So don't be afraid of that. Like it's a positive problem to have. The growth will solve all problems. We can just hire more people to fix it. I think the problem is if nobody uses it, because that's what we've had so far. So don't be afraid of people actually using our stuff. I love your idea of monitoring in CI and then CD. Like we can start early. Yeah, so auto DevOps should instrument if you push code, it should instrument it and it should measure that code. And because it's not a production app, people will not hopefully freak out if we send those metrics off to a third party, namely us, GitLab.com. And I think the argument that this presentation, I love a lot about the presentation, that's not useful to you. So I'll tell you what I disagree with. I disagree that we cannot just charge directly at a goal. I know in most cases, if you are a business, you want to kind of get to a niche or something like that. Mm-hmm. We don't need to do that. We went into version control when GitHub was dominant. We went into CI when Jenkins was dominant. It is not a problem. We can just do that. We just offer more convenience at a lower price. That's open source. That's disruption. So we can just, as long as the incumbent is either proprietary or outdated like Jenkins, we have an advantage, and we can use that. So I don't want to distract the current team. I love the focus on health and incident management, but I think we can have a parallel stream where we just go for the monitoring market directly.
I would love that. How do we balance that with, because right now what I've been told is we got to trim down our R&D spending. Mm-hmm. Like to me, building something, even using the popular tools that are out there that exist, it's not a small investment. If the answer is we will simply just invest more, then I would certainly amend this the strategy deck that I put together.
So we should build on success, and so we should think about where can we get success. And it starts with the Datadog agents and forking them and having them send stuff to a GitLab.com backend where people can browse it. I think one person can do that. So we should find that person, and I'll make sure we'll have budget for that single person group.
Okay.
And then we'll build on success. That last time we tried like an entire team. That's like, I don't know, in total with all the auxiliary people, that's 10, 15 people. That's very expensive. Mm-hmm. I'd much rather get started with a smaller initiative. And then when it works and we've got traction and like the data spore is exploding because there's still too much stuff coming in, great, then we can hire more people.
Okay.
So I think that if I had to formulate my insights, and if you don't mind, I'll create a new slide on your presentation. Oh, I cannot, it's comment only.
Oh, here, sure. 1 second. Okay, anyone in GitLab can be an editor.
Awesome, thank you. And I love this, like what went wrong? So not working by default, we're going to address that. I'll make a duplicate so that I don't mess up your original slide. We'll address that by SaaS only for now. No workflow. We'll have the same workflow as Datadog, go from metrics to logs. And I know that's not really what you're saying here. You're saying people didn't even get in the monitoring workflow, but I don't know. I have some points I just want to make. The wrong market. Yeah, so no Kubernetes needed. Dog fooding fail. Okay, that's fine. We don't need that. Maybe I'll make a new slide. So I think a couple of insights. So Datadog agents are superior and will be for a long time. So we should use them. Working by default is only possible with SaaS. Working SaaS will be great to get in contact with self-managed users.
Sorry to muddy the water slightly. Point number one, the other thing that's happening in the industry is now everyone's like, all right, instrumentation doesn't matter. Everything should be open. So New Relic, who has been a long success story here in terms of agents, they also open source their agents. So like there's like everything's out there for us, for a company like us.
Yeah, and what did we do? So the Datadog agents were open source, the New Relic agents were open source, the best agents in the world were open source. What did we do? We didn't use them. We used the new tools that were CNCF approved that are the future. But guess what? People need problem solved today. So we aimed
too far. Yeah.
We aimed too far. We weren't practical enough. We weren't thinking customer centric. And I was there and I made those decisions. So I'm not berating anybody, but we shouldn't do that again. We should do stuff that works today. And I think the other insight, and that's a good insight from you, we can easily instrument the CI and review apps since that is in. Cool.
Awesome. Yeah, in fact, we can do exactly what Datadog did to get started. Is if we say have a one-person group, just have something show up and it's metrics only, metrics regarding your infrastructure to get started. That should not be hard.
Cool.
Well, not hard, but
I think the only thing I'm wondering about is like, it was a lot of work for us to make the graphs and things like that in the GitLab interface. And there's a project that does that already really well, called Grafana.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, like we do need it in the GitLab interface. Our premise is a single application, and it includes like that means a single interface. So we can't do that. Is there like an ugly way to kind of just embed Grafana graphs in GitLab?
Yeah, I was thinking about it because like Grafana strategies, they start at they want to control the users, and then now you see them, they're like, hey, whatever thing you're using, use the Grafana version of tracing, use the Grafana version of metrics. They're swapping the business model, I think, is to swap out something so that they can make money, they can start to monetize. My initial thought is just like, can we just simply use the same, because Grafana can be coded based on, I think they use YAML, I don't remember. Can we just like use this exact same configuration setup, use the Grafana language to get started, because there's so many dashboards and so forth already created. But that seems like a lot of work.
I think like Grafana has like an engine to make graphs and stuff like that. Can we just like copy paste that code and have it render it inside GitLab? Don't even embed it, but like do something ugly there. It feels like we're on the, like it takes 5 years before you have all the options that you need.
Rebuilding that wheel is way too expensive.
So
like this would be like an area I would like pursue deep partnership with Grafana. I don't know if that's possible, or what they might be interested in.
Yeah, I don't think they're interested, but their stuff is open source. Look, that's the beauty. If it's open source, we can just use it. We don't need anybody's permission.
Yeah.
They're not gonna, it doesn't make sense for them to invest engineering time so that people can use GitLab instead of Grafana. Like, I wouldn't do that if I was them.
Yeah.
But I think we've gone for the nice solution. Let's use the really nice open source standards. Let's make our own graphs. Instead, we should go for the ugly hacky thing. Let's copy Datadog's thing and change some code so it sends graphs to us. Let's take the Grafana code and make some changes so that it renders in GitLab.
Okay.
Go for ugly hacks on top of Datadog agents and Grafana graph code to make it work in GitLab. Cool. Yeah, you can ask Sherry for the recording if you need it, and I look forward to seeing you thinking about it and seeing the presentation. As soon as you've changed the presentation with it, let me know.
Okay.
Cool. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Ed.